Hi, my name is Joe Burrow, and this is my presentation for HRE 7731. I will be talking about race, ethnicity, and prejudice in the United States, and how this prejudice and discrimination has not only continued but risen throughout the years against minorities, all the way from elementary school kids to the adults in the labor market. Many people throughout the United States believe that these discriminatory practices do not still go on, but this is not the case, and we can see it through many different studies published by many different organizations. According to Webster's Dictionary, prejudice is defined as a preconceived opinion that is not based on reason or actual experience, and discrimination is defined as the unjust or prejudicial treatment of different categories of people or things, especially on the grounds of race, age, or sex. Both of these are still practiced in the United States in such things as the hiring or labor market, schools, and prisons, whether it's implicitly or explicitly. This means that implicitly means that they don't really know that they are doing it, but they are, and explicitly means that they're just explicitly being racist and that they know what they're doing. A study conducted by the Poverty Action Lab set out to determine if race was one of the deciding factors in the hiring process. They set out to do this by sending out 5,000 different resumes for 1,300 different jobs in Boston and Chicago, with some using African American sounding names like Jamal Jones or Lakeisha Washington, and others using white sounding names like Emily Walsh or Brendan Baker. These different names were chosen based on surveys of people in the Chicago and Boston areas. They got the different jobs through newspaper ads. The resumes also varied by quality, with some having very high quality and some having very low quality for each different name. What the study found was that race did play an important factor in the decision-making process. Resumes with white-sounding names received 50% more callbacks than the resumes with the black-sounding names. The region did, however, make a difference in the results. For example, the resumes that were sent to downtown Chicago jobs were subject to more callbacks and thus less discrimination than the resumes that were sent to Boston. This is not the only place where we see these kind of results. We also see it in the schools all over the United States. However, this study was conducted using data from the Louisiana Department of Education. They found that black students were suspended at a much higher rate than their white peers. This is, however, not what was found to be controversial, because there could be many factors that go into suspensions, especially the severity of the incident. To determine if there was an implicit bias that goes along with these disparities, the study looked specifically at interracial fights. They did this to look at the suspension lengths for each student involved. They found that black students were punished longer than white students for these fights. The difference is about an additional day of suspension for every 20 interracial fights. One might say this number is not big enough to make a determination. However, they found that the number was statistically significant and was also consistent through all the models and counties that they tested. They also found that black students were about twice as likely as white students to be suspended, and low-income students were about 1.75 times as likely as non-low-income students to be suspended. Disparities in suspension rates are evident within schools, and across county lines. We also find these kinds of disparities in the prison system. According to Ashley Nellis, African Americans are incarcerated at more than 5 times the rate of white people, and in some states, the number jumps to 10 times more. In 11 states, at least 1 in 20 adult black males are in prison, and in some states, that number is 1 in 15. In Alabama, Delaware, Georgia, Illinois, Louisiana, Maryland, Michigan, Mississippi, New Jersey, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia, more than half of their state prison populations are black, with Maryland having the highest rate of 72% being black. And this is with African Americans only making up 13.4% of the United States population. If they make up half of the prison population in 12 states, but only 13% of the actual population, I think something has to be going on. Not only does data support the discrimination of black people, it also supports the discrimination of low-income people. A study conducted by the Prison Policy Initiative showed that in 2014, the median income of incarcerated people prior to their incarceration was about 41% less than non-incarcerated people of the same age. This shows that the system is more lenient on people with money and more strict on people without money. It also shows systematic discrimination and how an implicit bias can affect people and their lives. Implicit bias is shown by a study published by the American Psychological Association about the perceptions of race. People were presented with pictures of young black boys and young white boys the same age, height, and weight. And these people found that black boys were overestimating their age by about 4.5 years. This means that a young black boy at the age of 13 could be perceived by some as an adult age 18. In a similar study in 2017, black men were perceived to be larger and more threatening than white men as well. They got this data the same way they got the data from the previous study. They got it by showing the faces of black and white individuals who were equal height, weight, and age. Not only do we see implicit bias through data, but we also see straight racism on the rise in this country. Not only racism, but violent racism. In 2016, hate crimes reached a 5-year high. However, there is a challenge in getting these reported as hate crimes. According to the SBL Center, statistics estimate that an average of 250,000 hate crimes happen every year. This is about 40 times the number that is reported by the FBI. This does not mean that the FBI is just failing to report these cases as hate crimes, but it could say that the victims of the hate crimes fail to come forward. Most recent statistics show that between October and December of 2016, there was a 25.9% increase in hate crimes from the same period the year before. This graph by the FBI hate crime statistics shows that most of these hate crimes are being committed against Muslim and Jewish people, and we can see it steadily on the rise from 2014 to 2016. However, in some cases, we see that these crimes against other groups of people are on the decline from 2014 to 2016. Groups of people like anti-Protestant and any other religion. Anti-Catholic hate crimes stayed about the same from 2014 to 2016. And hate crimes against anti-atheists and agnostics was still about the same from 2014 to 2016. And here are my sources.